It is a dimension as vast as space, and as timeless as infinity. It is the middle ground between light and shadow, between science and superstition, and it lies between the pit of man's fears and the summit of his knowledge. This is the dimension of imagination. It is an area which we call shots. Todd, I've gone far from home and I never want to come back. I never want to go back home after this.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's a good Spider-Man movie, Todd.
It's a very good Spider-Man movie.
Spoilers right up front.
Is it a spoiler?
Todd, this is Shots, our movie, TV, film review podcast. If you've never listened to an episode of Shots before, let me fill you in on the ritual. We both see, in this case, Spider-Man Far From Home. And the first kind of section, we will be talking about the film in a non-spoilery context, and then we will give a clear spoiler warning. And after that point, we will talk about the movie unhinged, Todd, out of control, loose cannon, full spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we kind of buried the lead there up front, but non-spoilers. What are your thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home?
It's a very good Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, dude.
I still I personally like it more than Homecoming.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that right now.
I see. I was with you. I was with you on that. Like after the first so I saw it. Wait, I saw it before you. I saw it.
Yeah.
I saw it last week. At this point, like when I first left the theater, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, do I like Homecoming more, or do I like Far From Home? Like, I was kind of like in between the two because Homecoming's like fantastic, but a part of me, I've finally gone on the side of I think Far From Home is better, personally.
To sort of like I guess it's a weird thing, right? Because so to have this conversation right up front, what's better, Homecoming or Far From Home? I guess for me personally, I think Homecoming is probably a better movie, but I favor the fuck out of Far From Home.
I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think that's kind of where I ended up, anyways. Honestly, like I can agree that probably like Homecoming is the better, just all around movie.
Just to talk about the movie in a general sense, again, no spoilers. God, I just love I just love this corner of the MCU, this neighborhood, as it were,
yeah,
of the MCU. Like, I just love, like, catching up with these characters and, like, just hanging out with Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just really, really, really love it. Like, it brought me such a breath of fresh air. You know what I mean? To just, like, deal with Spider-Man shit. Mm-hmm. After, like, the heaviness of Endgame and everything like that. And, like, all the sort of, like, big, bombastic, Marvel superhero movies. This feels so much more just, like, grounded. Reserved. Yeah, grounded. And, like, yeah. I just love all these characters, and I love this little world that they've set up, and it's just so nice to actually, like, hang out with these people. It feels to me like this is going to be the kind of movie where I rewatch it, and it's going to be kind of a hangouty movie.
Yeah.
Because, and this is a complaint that I see a lot of people saying, and I don't, for me personally, agree. A lot of people complain that the first sort of like half of the movie is pretty slow.
Oh, no, I didn't think so at all.
The conceit of this movie, the whole premise of this movie, for those that may not know, is that, it's, post-Endgame. It happens after the events of Endgame. And they're going on a sort of like summer trip in Europe. Mm-hmm. They're gonna, and so like the whole conceit is like, oh, I don't want to bring Spider-Man with me. I want to just go on a vacation and just be a kid, right? But it's that typical Spider-Man story. It's that Parker luck. Of course, he cannot leave Spider-Man at home.
Mm-hmm.
So the first kind of like at least third, maybe not half, but at least third of the movie is like kind of just like Peter Parker's kind of like school life and his sort of like and him actually going on some of these little excavations with the trip. It's not really until like there's a point where it sort of shifts, But up until that, it's kind of like Peter Parker drama a little bit. And I was okay with that because like I just love these characters so much. Like Ned and Betty steal like every scene they're in this movie.
I've said this to people at work that they're like some of the best parts of the movie.
So fucking good. Like every time that they're like on screen together, it's so good. And then like I love this take on MJ, like Zendaya's MJ is so like total scene stealer for me. To the point where it was like making me just like I don't know, I felt so attached already to these two kids. It's only been one movie.
Yep.
Like there's only been Homecoming and I already feel so attached to Zendaya's MJ and Tom Holland's, Peter Parker, that like when this movie kind of has them tackling the ins and outs of their sort of like blossoming love interest, like I just found myself getting like unreasonably emotional about it. I was like, man, I just love these kids, I just really love these kids in this world, in this corner that they've sort of carved out for themselves in the MCU. Like Spider-Man just has such an intangible vibe that is so completely present in these movies. And it's one of those things too where I'm not going to spoil it, but you take everything that I've just said and then you add the fact that my favorite Marvel villain is like a main focus of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't help but like love everything they've done with this movie. And again, no spoilers, but they handle the character of Mysterio so perfectly. And if you know the character Mysterio, you know exactly what I mean by that. And you've always known exactly what I mean by that. Just as I always knew. And it just like Jake Gyllenhaal is fucking so phenomenal in this movie. Like, it was always going to be so hard for somebody to fill Michael Keaton's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as the sort of second, antagonist. And Jake Gyllenhaal is so good. Mm-hmm. He's so fucking good. Like, I there are so many scenes in this movie. One big scene in particular, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about, where I was just like grinning like a fucking idiot. And I saw the movie with my wife and she looks over at me and I'm literally just like making small little claps. Like I'm just clapping.
Dude, I was kind of like, a lot of times in that movie I just had it was just a childlike grin on my face. Like there
are scenes in this movie that are lifted right from the comic book page.
Yep.
It's like breathtaking. And like there's so much like there's so much to love here. They really, for me, knocked it out of the park in pretty much every aspect. There's not really any like, at least right now. I mean, maybe once I think about the movie more, I'll think about it a little more critically, like I do with Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't look at any element of Far From Home and say, oh, that could have been better or whatever. I wholeheartedly think that in terms of the story that they wanted to tell with this, in the parameters of this kind of story, it's, for me, the perfect Spider-Man movie. Like, because I see people complaining all the time, talking about like, oh, it doesn't really capture New York City vibe enough. I'm like, well, the movie's literally called Far From Home. Yeah, it doesn't take place in New York.
Yeah, it doesn't even take place in New York. What?
Like, what a stupid complaint that is.
I mean, like, I'm not even gonna I'm not even gonna talk about that. That's just dumb.
I don't even entertain people who complain that. I understand people are like, oh, Spider-Man is New York and it's his neighborhood and blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, that's not, again, for this movie being what it wants to be. This movie's whole setup, like I said, is, hey, this is Spider-Man in Europe, kind of tackling with the events of Endgame. I think Endgame's still a little too fresh. I don't want to spoil the events of Endgame. But kind of tackling in like the fallout of Endgame, the things that happen in Endgame, and the way that Peter is dealing with it. And, and you can't he can't really escape his life.
Yep.
You know, and he has to sort of step up. And that's kind of the hero's journey that he goes on in this one, and it just, everything about it is so effective to me. Like, every moving part. Like, that's the thing about a truly great Spider-Man story, is like, a great Spider-Man story should always feel like there are a million plates spinning at once. You know? It's so, like, symbolic of Peter Parker's actual life, where he's spinning the plates of his, like, social life, and he's spinning the plates with, like, in some stories, like, work and a job and rent and stuff like that, depending on how old the character is. Or he's spinning the plates of, like, this stuff going on with this villain and his superhero life, and it should always feel like there are just a million things going on at once, and this movie has that. And just, I think that it has it checks all of the boxes for me of a great Spider-Man story. And I gotta say, and we'll talk about this even more as we're about to move into spoilers here, but I can't wait to see, like, I walked out of this movie immediately wanting the next one.
That same. That's like that was my first thought as I left. I'm like, well, next movie?
Like, I walked out of this just instantly wanting a third Tom Holland Spider-Man. I really hope that this is a series for Marvel that they just continue. Like, I want them to keep it moving forward. Don't just call it a trilogy and done. Just keep making Tom Holland Spider-Man movies until the end of time. Just keep doing that. That's all I want. I love it so much. Do you have anything non-spoiler you want to add real quick before we move into?
You kind of covered it all.
Okay. Well, let's move into spoiler talk then, because there's a lot of spoiler talk that I think needs to be discussed. So yeah, go see Spider-Man Far From Home. It's very, very good. Come back and listen to the rest of this. Make sure, for fuck's sake, if there's ever a Marvel movie that you need to stay for the credits for, make sure you stay for the credits of this one. God damn it.
What, are there people that don't do that?
Yeah, there are.
It's disgusting.
They still exist. Anyway, go see it. Watch the credits. Come back and listen to this. Spoiler warning. Official spoiler warning. We are getting into spoilers now, Todd. Give me those spoilers, Todd.
Where do we want to start? Do we want to start with Ned and Betty?
I mean, they fucked, right?
I think they did. But no, like that whole thing with them was like fucking hilarious, because it was like Ned's whole fucking plan. Like,
yes,
we're gonna be bachelors.
We're gonna be American bachelors in Europe, yeah, and then like instantly, basically starts a relationship.
And like Tom Holland, Peter's face, like as they they walk up together. It's like, hey babe. It's like what?
It's so funny too, because like they're totally that like annoying couple
yes.
that like you hate, and then and they're just like, oh hey babe. It reminds me of like Heidi and Cartman on South Park a little bit. Just that totally annoying couple, and then by the end of it, like when they break up or whatever, and he's like I'm a man now. You're so wise.
Well, even that, like the best. Like, one of my favorite lines was, "I was young then." I was just a child. I was a child, like or some bullshit. I was like, God bless.
I love the shit with again, this is just the shit that I love. I love like just the interplay between like these characters, these high schoolers.
Well, I still really, really love this take on Flash.
Yes, the Flash mob.
Yes, I absolutely like. I love this take. That's actually, speaking of the. I can't wait to see how he's going to react in the next movie.
Yeah. Now that in the post credits.
Yes.
That'll be interesting. You know what? I was talking to Dan about this, and like, I wonder if people are going to believe it or not.
Yeah. I mean,
like, I wonder how many people are actually going to believe that is legit. But I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. That's actually like one of the things I'm looking forward to. But now I need to get... This is what I've been needing to get. Mysterio, sweet boy. I need you to tell me. Oof. Yeah, come on. I need them. I need the deets. This
I
is the shit that
fucking
I've been personally
freaked.
waiting for.
I fucking
Because
freaked out. I freaked out. He's so perfect in this movie, Todd. He's so fucking goddamn perfect in this movie. I love it so much. I'm so happy. Like, for those that don't know, like, I've been a Mysterio fanboy. He's been my favorite Marvel villain since I was like young, and like I fucking and it's funny because like we knew, like, they would show these trailers where, oh, like, I'm from the multiverse and I'm a good guy, and
it's funny is you hinted at it is when the turn happens,
yes,
and the turn is that bar scene,
yes,
and I called it that was the turn because I'm like, these motherfuckers are still in their outfits,
yeah.
and I'm like, that's weird.
Well, and it was funny too because, well, yeah, they were still wearing their like suits and shit, for one thing, and then like, and it was totally like anybody with half a brain would know in that moment when he's relinquishing the glasses.
Oh yeah, I'm just sitting there like, oh shit.
You already know where shit's gonna go. But what I didn't realize was like the tone of Mysterio is captured so perfectly in this movie because like he's the type of villain where like you should be scared of him, but you should also be kind of laughing at him.
Yeah.
And like the way that like they play him as this like disgruntled ex-employee of Tony Stark is so perfect.
And again, I love that it's like there's like a team behind it.
Yeah, there's a team behind the idea of Mysterio, basically.
Yep.
And it's all these old characters, including the dude that Obadiah Stane like
Yeah,
yelled at.
I thought that shit was hilarious. I was like, what the fuck?
God bless. They brought this character back. It feels like the people that write these movies are just like digging through the files. Like, what character would make sense for us to bring back?
I mean, they definitely
what
did.
What minor ass character?
Yeah, they brought him back, and it's just like, god damn. Oh, fuck,
but
dude.
that whole bar scene where he just stands up and it's just, and like the Mysterio, the music that plays, the Mysterio theme that plays during that moment is so perfect, and like he's just like, to Victoria, who fucking just, it's kind like you're kind of laughing a little bit because it's just these nerds, you know, it's just these nerdy like people in like their late 40s.
But then you get that like like the whole thing where he's like, oh, and they said I was unstable, and you see that shit.
Oh yeah. Like he definitely plays that unstable part. Well, and there's also that moment where he basically threatens all of their lives and like aims the drones at him and shit like that, you know. And
yep, and then it's like now Peter Parker's blood is on your hands. Not on his hands, it's on their hands.
Right.
It's like shit.
That is the tone of Mysterio perfectly captured.
Yep.
Of just like there should be a little bit of goofiness. A little bit of you is kind of like snickering, but the rest of you is terrified.
Yeah.
Because he's right. Like, the illusion, the tricks of the mind are like so fucking dangerous. And that scene, that first big illusion scene.
Oh, yes.
Is so fucking breathtaking and perfect. And I got goosebumps now just thinking about it. It's so fucking good. Like, I could not ask for better. That is a quintessential Mysterio-ass Mysterio scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is perfect. And, like, it literally feels like comic book panels. It's so good. Like, ugh. The shot where, like, Peter's in the snow and like New York City's rising around him, and then it pans out and it's a snow globe as Mysterio's head. I'm like, oh, it's so good.
There was so much good shit, man.
And then
did you like his more like grounded outfit when he's doing the performance?
Oh, you mean like when he's actually in kind of like a military suit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with that. I mean, the thing about it is like, This take on Mysterio is obviously more modern, and like he's, the jury's out on if he's actually an ex-soldier or not. But that part of his backstory I could actually kind of believe. Maybe he does have some sort of military background. I don't know.
Maybe.
But the point is the fact that even the suit is an illusion.
Yeah.
Is brilliant.
Well, there is a real suit, but
there is a real suit that is being ironed. But like the fact that, you know, the suit that you see throughout most of it is an illusion. I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Like the use of like modern stuff, like, you know, like drone technology, and the fact that that all intimately plays a role, like going back to the Tony Stark glasses, is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Like just a brilliant take on Mysterio. Like, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. And I could not be happier. It was one of those things where I was nervous coming into this because I knew that the whole, like, the shit they were leading up to in the trailers was going to be bullshit.
Oh, of course.
I knew that, right? Like, you're
like,
not going to make a mistake.
I knew that, like, that bullshit was going to be dealt with quick, like, which was, it really was. And then the real shit happened.
Yeah. Like, that was so obvious. You're not going to put Mysterio in a movie and make him a good guy. It's just not going to happen. But then, like, you know, once we get that all out of the way, I mean, I just could not ask for a more perfect representation of my favorite character. It was so great.
The new suit, the new Spidey suit.
I love it.
Yeah, same.
I love it, but, you know, more so than the suit itself, because you know I'm a big fan of the web armpits.
Oh, come on! I know you. I know you're gonna love that shit.
So I love the web armpits. So I'm always happy with that.
I love the scene where he's designing it.
Yes, I was just gonna say that. That's
like,
one of my favorite scenes in the movie, when he is on the sort of like Harrier jet with Happy.
Yep.
And he's designing the suit, and Happy plays, you know, fucking Back in Black.
And he's got that thing where he, you know, sticks his arm in that shit, and he's like designing it.
It's a total callback to Iron Man 1.
Total callback. Yeah, Happy sitting there smiling at him. I'm like, and I'm sitting there, I'm smiling too, like a jackass. I was like, yes.
And it gets you a little choked up a little bit, because you're starting to see. I mean, these are the themes that run concurrent through this movie. Is like, after Tony Stark dies in Endgame, like, who's gonna kind of take his place? That's the whole thing.
And even then, it's like it's not even to be the next Iron Man, the next Tony Stark. It's because it's like the whole thing is like for, you know, Peter to, you know, stand up and be who he is, Spider-Man.
Right.
Know?
Yeah. No, and that's even what Happy says on the plane. Is like, you're never going to be Tony Stark. You're never going to be Iron Man. Like, he doesn't want you to be Iron Man. He wants you to be you. But it was so nice to see him, like, literally filling his shoes.
Yep.
And it's funny because, like, it's kind of brilliant when you think about that story beat. Like, when you think about the concept of filling Iron Man's shoes and blah blah blah. Because, like, these reporters and stuff in the movie, they kind of act as the fans a little bit, because that's sort of how the fans are right now. Is like, who is going to take Iron Man's place? Everybody, you know, what's the first thing that happened after fucking Endgame ended? Everybody's like, well, I guess it's gonna be War Machine's gonna be Iron Patriot now, and he's gonna be the fucking.
It's like who's gonna be the poster child of the MCU?
Yeah,
you know, because that was without a doubt Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Like,
well, and it was sort of like, oh, the daughter's gonna grow up to be fucking this and that, and I'm just like, who, like, we don't need this movie, like, brilliantly addressed that right away. Like, for this movie to come out soon after Endgame and be like, that's not the conversation that we need to be having. You don't need another Iron Man. There was an Iron Man. We don't need another Iron Man. I thought that was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I love, like, I love the message of this movie. It's a great fucking globe-trotting ass Spider-Man movie. God, I love the back and forth. Again, I keep wanting to touch on MJ, because I just love Zendaya's MJ so much. She's so good in this movie.
The whole movie is like, I love the whole, like, awkward, like, romance between the two. And the plan.
Awkward romances are always great. But then there's also just like she's smart. Like, she's not some idiot. She figures out he's Spider-Man. She knows. She's not a dumbass. I love that scene.
I was only, what was it? What was, like, the percentage? I was only
like 67% sure or whatever. Yeah, I love that. I love that she's like, he goes to confront her on the bridge or whatever, and she's like, hey, you're Spider-Man. And he's like, no, I'm not. It's and she lays out because you always have that thought in the back of your head is like, really, nobody is noticing this. And I love the sort of like love triangle between him and that character Brad or whatever his name is, where like he sort of like had like a glow up when he came back from the blip, as they call it.
Yeah.
I love that, man. I loved that whole shit where he almost kills him.
Dude, that shit was hilarious. I was like, holy shit. And I love that not Nick Fury gave him shit for it.
Yes. That was hilarious too, because that post-credit scene where it's revealed that, you know, Nick Fury and Maria Hill throughout the entire movie are actually Talos and some other Skrull.
It's his wife.
It's okay, so it is his wife. That's what I thought, but I to be honest, I just found those characters so like kind of forgettable.
Yeah, I honestly don't know why I remembered it, but I remember. Well, personally, those are probably one of the better characters. Personally,
they are, but the Captain Marvel I just found as a movie just so forgettable.
Well, yeah, it's a very forgettable movie. So but yeah.
So yeah, but those two characters kind of like taking the place as Skrulls for Nick Fury and Maria Hill. It recontextualizes the entire movie.
So, that scene alone made so much more sense for like the one of the lines from the trailer that I saw before watching the movie.
It's
like, don't invoke her name. I was like, what?
Well, it's funny because like it's actually kind of brilliant the way they play that up, like knowing that twist is coming and everything. Because like looking at it in hindsight, it's funny because there are just subtle little things that they do with those characters, like little mannerisms that don't quite feel right for Nick Fury, and like words that are just a little too big for Nick Fury to be saying, and it just makes sense. Like it just feels like something's just a little bit amiss when you think back to it.
Yeah, and so are they implying? Are they setting up Sword?
Yeah, that was sort of what it seems like, right?
That was my first thought.
In the post credits, like they sort of call Nick Fury and they're like, "Hey, like you need to not be on vacation right now," basically. And he pops out, and yeah, he's kind of like in space, right? So
there was the implication was like I'm assuming they're setting up Sword. So I was like, that's
what
cool.
It seems like. And apparently, I didn't catch this, but apparently there's like a Nova reference in the movie that I didn't catch.
I heard about that. I didn't catch it either.
Yeah, I just had read about it. That apparently it's something like quick on the TV where they have I guess they have the character from Thor, like Stellan Skarsgård's character from Thor, and he, I guess, makes some sort of mention of Nova or something like that in the movie.
Okay.
So,
That'd be real quick.
It must have been quick because I didn't catch it. But it seems to me like in the larger scope of the MCU, I mean, it only makes sense for Sword to be a thing. I mean, these are the kind of things that they need to start thinking about moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I forget what Sword actually stands for.
Oh, I don't fucking know. Couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what the fuck that stood for. But it's basically shield in space.
That's essentially what that's all it really is.
I mean, that's what I know. It stands for, hang on, let me pull this up here. Okay, Sentient World Observation and Response Department.
Yeah, sounds about right.
So, shield in space.
Yep, shield in space.
Basically what it is. So it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense if we're going to be moving forward with characters like, you know, you assume there's going to be a Captain Marvel 2.
Unfortunately. No,
we're going to be getting, we'll see. We're going to be getting, obviously, Doctor Strange 2 and, you know, moving forward with Guardians and stuff like that. I mean, there's going to be some space shit in this new phase of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely going to be some space shit. So it makes sense for a Sword to be a thing. And yeah, like, and then I love so basically the first post-credit sets up, like, the next Spider-Man movie. And the last one sets up, like, the next phase of the MCU at large.
Yeah.
And then like, having that scene at the end there with that edited footage that Quentin Beck left.
Yeah.
So fucking good. So good.
But it's like in a way, it's like it feels like that was like the plan in a weird way.
Well, yeah, I mean, like he even says in the movie, right? Like he has like all these contingencies.
Yeah.
And I mean, like it's funny because people are like, and Peter even tries to confirm in the movie like that he's dead. There ain't no way he's dead. There's no way he's dead. Here's my thing. He's trusting Edith. Beck never transferred rights back over to Peter.
Right.
So he's trusting Edith's word through the glasses that Beck is dead and that the illusions are gone. It's just another lie. He never, because Peter, they established in the movie that Peter had to physically transfer rights over, and Beck never did that.
Yep.
And then and so here it is, we producing this like edited footage to make it seem like Peter, he couldn't have done that from the fucking grave, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I mean, it's like, and again, they show that I forget what his name, but the dude that Obadiah Stane fucked with. They even show him like grabbing like a flash drive with like probably that footage,
right?
Type of shit.
So there's plans on plans on plans, and this is probably just this is the plan if we make it look like he killed me. Here's the plan for that.
It's like where we technically fail the Avengers level event. Basically,
we fail the Avengers level event, but we set up something bigger later. And I want to talk about that because we've talked about this privately about where we sort of want these movies to go. But I just want to, I want to talk about it because I just love thinking about the future of these movies. The possibilities are just limitless of where they could go with this franchise.
And it's funny, we definitely went to the same path, I think.
Well, because you like we had this conversation. You asked me who I think the next villain should be, and my mind instantly went to Kraven.
Yeah, and it would fit perfectly with the end credit scene.
Yeah, where Peter Parker's identity is revealed. J.K. Simmons back as JJ, by the way.
It's canon, baby.
Oh, so good, so good. And by the way, but before I'm definitely gonna talk about Kraven and stuff, but before I talk about that, I just want to shout out how like they have kind of worked in with the last bits of that movie / that post-credit scene. They've definitely worked in some they've kind of like cherry-picked some elements from the Spider-Man Insomniac PS4 game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's like swinging and taking selfies and stuff like that, and like JJ not being like he's not the typical like kind of head of Daily Bugle. He almost has a more like and he does a podcast in the game.
Yeah.
And this sort of feels like that a little bit.
God, that's like the best part of that. That's like one of the best parts of that game.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that the logical place to go next is Kraven. And like the thing about it is they could spin it any number of ways, but I think that, the low-hanging ripened fruit on the vine is definitely Kraven. And now that his identity has been revealed, it's, no pun intended, but it's open season.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see that. I want to see that so bad. And now that you asked me who I'd want to be cast as Kraven, and my gut reaction was Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
And now that I have that in my head, I can't get it out of my head.
Oh, so you really want Hugh Jackman as Kraven?
Because think about it, dude. It would be so like when they got Michael Keaton in his Vulture, it was sort of like, okay, let's have this character who has a long history with superhero movies and stuff like that. Let's have him stick his head in the MCU. And now he's an MCU character. What better way? There will never be a better way for Hugh Jackman to be in the MCU than for him to play Kraven.
Yeah.
They're not gonna bring Wolverine in and just have Hugh Jackman play him again.
No, if they're gonna bring Wolverine in, they're gonna have a new guy.
They're not gonna have Hugh Jackman just come back and reprise his role as Wolverine. He already did it. He did it for fucking like 20 years. So have him stick his head in as a villain, where he would just, could you imagine, dude? He would just fucking chew the scenery apart as Kraven. It would be so good because Hugh Jackman can, and we've seen it for the past 20 years. Hugh Jackman can be animalistic and fucking just dripping masculinity, but he can also be very like dapper and charming.
Yep. No, dude, I think he would kill it as Kraven.
I have it in my, I don't want to see anybody else at this point as Kraven, almost, like in my mind. It's like, it would take like a motherfucker for me to be like, okay, somebody else can be Kraven. I'm so obsessed with this idea in my mind now, where I really want the third Spider-Man movie to be a Bourne style kind of spy espionage action chase movie, where Kraven is hunting Peter, and you could and if you're going this route, if you kind of make an espionage kind of movie, that's the perfect place to introduce Chameleon.
Oh shit!
Which is like the Chameleon just has the right shape of like these characters who have never really appeared in other media that they want to touch on. That'd be so great. That'd be so great. My buddy Provost made the point. He was like, what if they pull a twist like Chameleon has been a character from like all along from his past?
Ooh.
Like what if the fucking teacher that was his name, Mr. Harrington or whatever, what if that was Chameleon the whole time or something like that,
Holy shit. That'd be fucking hilarious.
It'd be crazy. And there's some shit like that where I'm just like, I feel like this would be the perfect place to introduce them. Obviously, they tease Scorpion at the end of Homecoming, so we need to tackle Scorpion at some point. And obviously everybody's chomping at the bit for Sinister Six, and everybody's like, where's Norman Osborn, and where's this, and where's Doc Ock, and shit like that.
And we both talked about that. We don't need to see them.
I don't need to see them, and I don't need to see them anytime soon. Like I said, I don't want this to just be a trilogy one and done. Like, I want this to be like, I want this to be the Spider-Man series that actually goes on, and I want to grow with this character. And
I feel like that's something they can do, man. Like Tom Holland can definitely just grow into more. He let him become the older Peter Parker.
Because Peter Parker is at this point what, 16? I think he says
16, 17 or some shit. Yeah.
So it seems to me like he's like this next movie is probably going to deal with him like graduating high school, right? I assume he's going to graduate in this next movie or whatever. And yeah, when we pick back up with him, and it's it's going to be interesting. I want to see him. I want there to be Spider-Man 3 basically is going to deal with like the high school graduation, and then go on from there. Though I want to see Spider-Man 4 where now he is either in he's like in college and trying to struggle with the shit that we're used to seeing, a job. That's when you can give him a job at the Daily Bugle and shit like that. Like, this character is so rich, we don't have to just stop at 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I just want to keep existing in this. So with that in mind, I'm like, let's make Spider-Man 3 this crazy spy chase movie with Kraven and Chameleon as kind of the 2 main villains. And then let's move in with Spider-Man 4. Let's reintroduce Scorpion. And I think Spider-Man 4 could have like a kind of like thug kind of vibe to it. Where, Scorpion is kind of a thug from what we've seen.
I don't even remember. Do you even remember who was like playing him?
It was not a big name actor, from what I remember. I can visualize his face in my mind, but I don't think it was like a big name actor. But he just seemed like he was sort of just a dude in prison. I don't know. I don't think that's something we need to touch on immediately, but I do want to touch on it eventually. And then we could slowly work into Sinister Six. I could do with a lot more of these Spider-Man movies. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that's funny. It's he's actually the dude that was Voss in Far Cry 3.
No. All right then.
Michael Mando or Mondo.
So now we're gonna have Scorpion being like, "Have I ever told you the definition of insanity?" Anyway, I think that's about all I got, Todd. In terms of Far From Home, I love this movie.
As do I.
I can't wait to watch it many, many more times. Such a hangouty movie. And with it being like the Mysterio movie, this movie's gonna live in my fucking Blu-ray player. You kidding me? I can't wait to turn it on, just watch that scene over and over again. Anyway. That's about all I got. Ty, you got anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
All right. Swing with me, Todd. Swing into the sunset with me. You're my MJ.
No.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey there, thanks for checking out another fantastic Nerd Bourbon video. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to go ahead and subscribe, leave us a like, drop us a nice comment, or I guess a mean one if that's your prerogative. But until next time, get dunked on.